The Radio Forest Podcast.
Mike Score, welcome. How are you today?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Hey, you've got The Police, Carlos Santana, Jeff Beck, Frank Zappa, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Pink Floyd, Eric Clapton, and a flock of seagulls, all Grammy Awards, Best Rock Instrumental Performance. How does that feel, man?
It feels like I'm not a singer. It's actually amazing because when we won that Grammy, we really didn't know what a Grammy was. We were a little English band that came to America, had a couple of big hits and stuff like that. And then we went to Germany to record our second album, and somebody said, you've won a Grammy. We won a Grammy. What is that? Then, of course, we looked into it and we found out, and we're like, why weren't we there to pick it up and say thank you to America for making us stars, selling our albums and stuff like that, things that we had dreamt of since we first started banging around on instruments, So it was a big shock, and now we want another one.
You've got a second one now.
We need another one.
So when a flock of seagulls gets together then and really starts to take form, late 70s, early 80s, were the Stones popular at that time? I know you're kind of a distance away from London where the band was getting together. I guess my question is, were you a big Stones fan as a kid leading into those early days with the passing of Charlie Watts? How did that affect you, and were you a big Stones fan?
Early on in the Stones, when Brian Jones was around, I was a big Stones fan. When they went more like a bluesish kind of band, that wasn't for me. I like stuff like 2000 Light Years from Home and stuff like that. I was into sci-fi, so that was my kind of thing. The Stones wrote great songs, and it's sad that Charlie Watts has died, but he must have had a great life being the drummer in the Stones. And it's hard to say anything about it except that, the Stones were a great band, and I never saw them live. But I preferred the Beatles, to tell you the truth.
Did you ever get to see them live?
No, I've seen McCartney a couple of times. I was a bit too young to catch the Beatles when they were doing live stuff. I remember they played in Liverpool, and I went to the city centre the next day, and somebody said to me, I was like, oh, what happened here? And they went, the Beatles played. And I went, the Beatles played, and nobody told me.
Wow.
Nobody told me they were going to play,
Yeah.
So... No, I wish I had seen him live, but I saw McCartney live, and that was brilliant.
We're talking to Mike Score from A Flock of Seagulls, brand new album out now called String Theory, and I believe it's with the Prague Philharmonic. Mike, I love this. Your voice sounds great. I can really hear these songs being worked into like movie-scapes. Does that make sense? And I know you guys have had songs in soundtracks before, a couple of different ones throughout the years. Some of the intros and stuff, I'm like, man, you could work that into the back of a movie, and it would be perfect.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, I think, because to have a song come up like that and be reimagined, as they say, it's great because it's like, for me, it's like I'm listening to a new song as well now, even though I wrote the core of the song, but I didn't write the orchestral parts and I didn't write the intros or outros. So to me, it's kind of like, here's a whole new look at what I do, different way of thinking.
So when it comes to the orchestra parts, how much involvement do you have, or is that turned off to somebody else? And like, this is what we came up with, and you're like, I like it or don't like it?
Well, I sat down with an arranger, an orchestral arranger, and we talked about the kind of things that I like that an orchestra can do. And then he kind of took those ideas and made them work as an orchestra would work them. So although not everything that I thought was going to happen happened, some other things did. Some of it was a nice surprise, and some of it was like, well, I think that what I thought there would have been better. But, the way to make it work is to get that blend. So you're not doing something so outlandish that it doesn't work. And that's, really down to the producer and the orchestra. Some orchestras probably don't want to follow the synth too closely because they have a certain way of playing and they know what fits together, whereas I don't think like that for an orchestra. I think like that for a synth or guitar. To me, it's just like, hey, it's a brand new song. It's a whole new thing.
Yeah, that was my first impression, too. Sometimes I didn't recognize the song for, 30 seconds or so. I was like, wait, what is this? Because it attacks it a different way. And that's a good thing, like you said, that reimagines the song. Switching tracks real quick, I read this morning that Stuart Copeland is writing a book, kind of like a diary, about the early days of the Police. You guys had played together a few times. Flock of Seagulls might get mentioned in the early days of the Police, or when did you guys cross paths?
Well, we basically did the Synchronicity tour with them, or at least the first half of it, which was amazing. You know, the Police were an amazing band, and even though they had tensions within their band, which all bands do, I think that's part of what made them work. The different personalities and stuff like that. When we played with the Police, they were always great to us. They were always nice to us. They were always friendly. I didn't see any big egos, really, with the Police guys. They accepted us. We had great gigs with them. We had great times with them. And that was Synchronicity Tour. And they were huge then, absolutely huge. They could have been real nasty to us, but they weren't. They were great, full of confidence. The shows, we learned a lot from just watching the Police side stage. We learned a lot about how to engage an audience and how to treat people.
You still have a place down in Florida?
I still have a place in Florida. I have a place in England. Lately, I've been spending more time in England right through the pandemic, just because my house in England, it was just like, oh, I'll feel a bit better in England because I'm from Liverpool, maybe than being in America, you know, where strange things can happen, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and Florida got real kind of freaky there for a while. It can be. But my question about Florida was, when I moved there, I was surprised because people were like, hey, you can't wear shorts out at night. You look like a tourist. And I was like, well, it's like 85 degrees out and 75% humidity. I'm dying. They're like, yeah, you look like a nerd. You got to wear pants when you go out. Is that still the case? I hadn't been to Florida in a while, and I was like, well, I'm wearing shorts.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know. I do what I want when I'm in Florida. I don't care what people say, but I'll wear shorts or one leg longer than the other. Who cares? It doesn't matter, you know.
Are you still into boats? Do you have boats both in Florida and in Liverpool, or how's that been? Can you do that in the pandemic? That would be a kind of a good hobby to get into and stay away from people.
It would, but like I say, I spent most of the pandemic in Liverpool. I am still into boats, but not like I used to be, because it used to be a fresh thing to me, and I used to be, you know, I'm going to get into this, I'm going to learn all about boats, and I'm going to, you know, but then what happens is I get an idea for a song, and I go, forget the boats. I write a song. I write one song, I write two, I write 20, I write 30, and then suddenly the boat, you know, I look at it and go, I better do something about the boat, you know. So more lately, I've been doing music and not so much boats. I go by what's happening to me, you know, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. And, you know, boats is like sunny day, work on a boat, you know. Music is like, oh, it's 3 a.m. I think I'll go write some music.
Well, I was pleasantly surprised about your voice, and I mean that in the truest compliment. I didn't expect it to be bad, but it does sound fantastic on the new record. I really like it a lot. It's Mike Score, A Flock of Seagulls, new album out now called String Theory. Hey, Mike, thanks for the time today.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing me on.